Welcome, everybody, to the Parks Foundations and Quality of Life Policy Committee. And we'll get this meeting started. So, approval of minutes. Councilmember Coombs, Councilmember Murillo, any questions, additions?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay.
Same here, no changes.
Same here. So, meetings are approved. And any announcements?
We have the 4th of July event coming up next Thursday, July 4th. We're excited about that event. We'll be doing fireworks again. There will be a slight change in how we use the parking garage. The parking garage will be available for city staff and council only. It will not be available for the public due to the secure nature of that parking garage now. We do have approval from Arapahoe County across the street where we can redirect parkers or attendees to the Arapahoe County parking lot, and they can walk across. That has historically been accomplished without incident in the past, and certainly the surface parking will be available as well. We know it'll be a popular event as it always has been in the past. Regarding weather, there have been challenges in the past with weather, and when a weather event happens, we notify the public to return to their vehicles. In the past, we've had employees open up the building, and that would be not appropriate. Has not been appropriate in the past, and it won't be appropriate this year. The building will be secure, and we want to make sure that the public is going back to their vehicles in the event of poor weather. I just wanted to let everybody know what our plan is for that event. And I understand I wasn't there, but they had a great ribbon cutting on the I-70 Highline Canal overpass yesterday. So thank everybody that attended that. And I see that Brian and Nicole shaking their heads. Yeah. Tell me it was just a wonderful event. So thank you for the staff and others that attended and supported that effort. So that's all I have, Councilmember Medina.
Right. Well, thank you for that update. Good information to know. And then we'll move right into our agenda items. 4A, USDA Urban and Community Forestry Inflation Reduction Act grant update, and it's Brian Green.
Good morning, council members and guests of the committee meeting today. Actually, I'm going to hand off the presentation to Adrian Camacho. He is our forestry superintendent currently, and he did most of the work on securing this grant and is also managing its implementation. So with that, I'd like to introduce Adrian.
Hi, my name is Adrian Camacho. As Brian said, I'm the forestry superintendent for the city of Aurora. And this is a culmination of a lot of work that the city of Aurora has done. I just can't gush enough on how the reason why we got this opportunity is because of all the hard work of a lot of people over years. So with that, I'll start. Please forward the slide. So, this grant was, deadline was in 2023. We applied to it, and it was a historic opportunity because the USDA was granting $1.5 billion in direct grants to urban forestry, which was unheard of. And by direct, we mean that these grants could go to tribal authorities, municipalities, nonprofits. There was no middleman. And we looked at our map. This is a map of what the Climate Economic Justice Screening Tool from the federal government. And you see so much of Aurora is represented in this map in the shaded area. And the reason why is because we have so many non-English speaking people in our community. That's one of the criteria that the federal government used to designate which areas were eligible for the grant and not. So it's not just socioeconomic indicators, it's health indicators, typical economic justice indicators, but also the percent of foreign-born and non-English speaking households. So the area that you see, the shaded area, covers 47% of the forestry service area. Almost half this city could get services under this grant. So we wrote it, we sent it in, and it was just basically just all the maintenance that was all over the city that we needed to address. Another important piece of this grant is it wasn't for pilot projects only, it was also for basic maintenance, like catching up on basic maintenance. So this is historic for our program. This allows us to expand our program and do better for all of Aurora, not just the people in this particular grant area. Next slide, please. So I just wanted to highlight this. City of Aurora was one of the top 3 recipients in Colorado. We were given the same money as Denver. I just want to say that Denver's not ahead of us. We are in line with Denver. And this speaks to the amount of need we have in our community. The reason why Colorado Springs got so much more was because of just historically, they have not been able to fund their urban forestry program. So they just had a lot of work that had been deferred. But, you know, congratulations to Colorado Springs, congratulations to Aurora, and congratulations to Denver. This was a great opportunity for all of us. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned before, most of this grant, 82% of this grant is being used for direct services to residents, meaning tree planting, tree removal, tree trimming, stump grinding, tree watering. These most of it goes directly to people's front yards, which I'm very excited about. And you can see that the ward breakout, it just so happens that Ward 1 was completely covered in this grant. So all the work that we had collected to be done in Ward 1, we applied for and got funding for it. Ward 2 is 14% of the work, and 3 is 26%. And the reason for the difference is that 3 has the big parks in it, like Expo Park and Utah Park, that so there's just a lot of work in those parks. And it covers even Ward 4 and Ward 5 a little bit. Ward 5 got the least, but that's just because there's only a small area around Horseshoe Park where the federal government identified as an area to work on. Next slide, please. So, as I said, the reason why so much of Aurora was covered by the economic justice tool was because of the percentage of non-English speaking households and foreign-born residents. So we didn't feel like we could be successful in this endeavor without actively partnering with the Office of International Immigrant Affairs. As you know, they're our bridge to sister cities programs and the refugee and immigrant communities. And we partner with them so that we have an emphasis on community engagement from the very beginning. We're not just doing this as a typical forestry program where you just get the stuff done. We want to partner with the residents of our community, and the OIIA has expertise in doing just that. This grant funds a community engagement specialist, which has been hired and is starting on Monday. And so what we're hoping with that position is that because they have expertise in reaching this population they can help us put together the education programs, our community outreach program, our plans for engaging our citizens. OIA will lead that engagement, and in the grant is funded translation tools and marketing tools, so that we can come with prepared, right? And the community engagement specialists, what they're supposed to do is communicate the benefits of the urban forest. We don't want that lost in the conversation. This is a public asset. This is an important public asset. And we want to make sure that all residents know about our program, know about the city, know about what this is doing for them. The second is that this person, by engaging all these different constituents, can help forestry, with its operations, can help us communicate better and coordinate better, listen to the concerns of these neighborhoods and address those concerns. And another important goal of the community engagement specialist is to increase civic engagement in this population. This non-English speaking residents, they may not trust government completely. They may not know all the services we provide. So this person will come informed to know, how do you get a business license? How do you register your pet? How do you engage forestry? How do you engage all the services that we provide? So it's not just a forestry person. They are a government representative, which we felt very strongly that this needs to be front and center of this initiative. Next slide, please. So this is the budget. I put the detail in here for council to be able to just look at what is the amounts and the plan for our spending. A few things I would like to highlight here is that 82% is being spent on direct services, as I mentioned. Only 10% is being spent on project management and the community engagement specialists. Another point I would like to make is half of this money is being spent on tree planting. So, and if you look at the budget amounts for the trees and the watering, you see it's very lopsided. We're planting only 2,305 trees, but our watering budget is almost 3 times that. And that's because we want this to be successful, and this is what success looks like. It's not just putting the tree in the ground, it's the aftercare that we found in our program that's so important to maintain and deliver the services to our residents. So half of this money is just tree planting and young tree maintenance. All right, next slide. So just switching gears here for a minute. As you see, the grant covered most of the wards and just a little bit of Ward 5. Well, we wanted to include this program because this really touches wards 5 and 6. This is our proactive planting program. We have, just like any other maintenance, you have to do proactive work if you want it to serve its purpose over the long term, and urban forests are no different. So in fall, we go find the areas of the city that have the most need through our GIS map and reach out to that area and plant trees in the area. And what's different about this program versus our spring program is that we water the trees for a year also. So because it's spatially consolidated, it's very cost effective for us to be able to offer watering services. So in the spring, we rely on residents to do the watering, but in fall we take on that maintenance ourselves. So, oh, this is sorry, this is actually with the grant. So the plan for this year is just to basically lay the groundwork for the grant. So select the general contractor, get the community engagement specialist done, begin work on public properties. The next 3 years, we're going to complete the grant scope, meaning get all the work done, all the trees planted, all the trees trimmed, and that community engagement specialist is going to work with the neighborhoods. And then at the end of the grant, the last year of the grant is just follow up and making sure that everything got reported and got done, and everything's good for the federal government. Next slide, please. This is where I'm talking about proactive planting. So I just mentioned that, and this is what we're doing. We're starting now, reaching out to these HOAs and this meeting to give the word out that we're going to start a proactive planting that's mostly for Ward 5 and Ward 6. So the next slide shows the area that we're focusing this area on. So around Quincy Reservoir, and Smoky Hill and Chambers Road area. We've already started talking to the HOAs to get on their HOA meetings, and this is a map of all the vacant planting spaces in people's front yards. With this map, there's about 470 dots here. We're hoping to plant 290 this coming fall. And we really believe in contiguous tree canopy as providing the most benefit to the city of Aurora. So that's another reason why this program is so important, is because it literally fills the gaps and makes sure that our citizens get the optimum benefit from our forest. Next slide. That's it. Any questions?
Thank you for the presentation. Councilmember Murillo?
Thanks, Councilmember Medina. Yeah, I think I misunderstood. Could you clarify the difference between like focusing on wards, what is it, 5 and 6 at the end of the presentation versus like the area that encompassed the whole city? Did you say that you had already done work in wards 1 and 3 and otherwise, and you're just continuing the work in other wards?
No. The grant is covering areas wards 1 through 4. Let's go to slide 4, please. All right, so this is the area that the grant is covering. And as you see in Ward 1, the grant is covering almost all the maintenance work in Ward 1. So that includes tree planting.
Yeah.
So what I was talking about in slide 7, could you please go to slide 7? Next one. Next one. In this area, this is our proactive planting program that we do every year. And because that the grant is covering so much of our current
Gotcha.
forestry area, we're shifting our focus to the areas that the grant is not covering.
All right. I just missed like probably a couple words there. Thank you for that clarification.
No, I didn't make that clear. I didn't emphasize that. So thank you for asking the question.
Yeah, otherwise I don't have any questions. I'm excited to see what this looks like. I understand that's mostly for front yards. Folks always approach me about like their dead trees in the backyard and worried
Mhm.
about how it's gonna impact their home.
Mhm.
I'm assuming that's not in the scope of this though.
Correct. This is for public trees. So we took all the maintenance records that we've collected over years and basically put them all together and applied for a grant. But it's restricted to public trees. The Denver program does address um, private trees, and the hope is that if we do a good job here, and I've heard this from the USDA, we want this to be successful because if we're successful, possibly there's more funding in the future. Now, who knows with the change of administration, but um, at least doing good work now with the resources we have means that we're a responsible steward in the future.
All right, that's it for me.
All right, thank you, Councilmember Murillo. Councilmember Coombs?
No, I think everything's pretty clear. I'm definitely very excited about the opportunity and certainly um, grateful to you all for focusing on investing in the watering situation. I know we've had some areas where some trees have died due to inadequate watering, and that's been a major concern for residents in those situations. We want street trees for the reasons that this grant exists and kind of feeling, but we certainly want them to also be able to thrive and not lose those trees. I know that's what you guys do, but I really appreciate you making sure that you're emphasizing the health of the trees.
Thank you. We appreciate hearing that.
All right, and yeah, I just got a couple things. Glad to hear about the community engagement person and them being knowledgeable, not just in the forestry pieces, but also other services in the city to kind of educate people. So I applaud you for that. And I was just wondering too, is you have an addition to tree trimming? Is that something in addition to what you're already currently doing? Like I know you do sectors, and is this going to be an additional?
Yeah. So what this grant allows us to do is shift more focus to the other parts of the city. So the tree there, the trees with the highest safety risk in the grant area will be taken care of with the grant. We're trying to figure out it for our internal resources. How are we going to do the less priority work in that area? But this expands our ability to do work by almost double. So that's why we're so excited.
No, great opportunity, and thank you guys for going after the funding and getting it. And so, thank you again, Brian, Adrian, for your work. Yeah, I certainly appreciate it, and I know community appreciates it as well. So, thank you, gentlemen, for your presentation.
Chair Medina?
Yes.
Hi,
Go
I
ahead.
would like to make a couple comments regarding Adrian Camacho's work on this effort. This project would not have occurred without Adrian. He found this grant, he was diligent and never gave up in developing the material for the grant. And even when we got down to the final hours and he's looking for signatures, he made it happen. And this was really the sole work of Adrian. And so I want to recognize that value that he provided to achieve this for the city. So thank you to Adrian Camacho.
Well, thank you, Brooke, for that comment. Yeah, like I said, I know having worked for pros, you got a lot of great people there, and I'm glad to see that people are diligent and stay with it and accomplish great things. So appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to 4B, Older Adult Needs Assessment Update, and that is going to be Eric Del Angel.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Nicole Ankeny, and I'm the manager of planning, design, and construction And Eric Del Angel has been with us for what, Eric? A little over 6 months. He's one of our newer planners to the staff. And he's been working very closely with Ryan French, our project delivery supervisor, as well as the Aurora Commission for Older Adults. And Eric will be providing the presentation and update this morning. Thank you.
Thanks, Nicole, for the introduction. As she said, I will be running you guys through everything that's happened with the older adult needs assessment. And I'm one of the project managers, parks planner, along with Ryan French, who's our project delivery supervisor in pros. Can you go ahead and advance the slide, Adriana? Okay, so I'd just like to go ahead and read out the purpose of this is assessments to carry out a community-driven comprehensive assessment supported by data collection and analysis of the needs of older adults in Aurora, 60 and up. And so I just wanted to go ahead and point that out that 60 and up is the age that was set by the Aurora Commission for Older Adults, as anybody classifying as an older adult in the city. In addition, what's shown below are the different domains of livability that this assessment focuses on. These are loosely based off of the domains of livability found in the CASOA study, which was a 2022 study of a community assessment survey for older adults. They took some of the information we found in there and we built upon it and created new domains of livability specific for us. Aging in place, healthy living, and community connections. So, and each of those has their subgroups there. And so can you go on to the next slide, please? So yes, right now we are in phase 2, which is the qualitative data collection and analysis. Phase 1 was the environmental scan, which was just finished and wrapped up, and it'll receive final approval here soon. And so in phase 2, it really is a lot of engagement, conducting focus groups, key informant interviews, and listening sessions with older adults, caregivers, service providers who have firsthand knowledge of their day-to-day lives and of older adults in communities, older adult communities in Aurora. So I just want to go ahead and really compliment JSI as our consultant on this project, and they have made a great effort to make this an equitable process, trying to hear from all groups and all voices in the city. So that's ranged from Arapahoe County Health Department in Adams County to the Colorado Ethiopian community, Colorado Latino leadership, Senior Planet, which helps with technology services and training for older adults, and all the way to Grovewood Development, which is a development company that specifically builds housing for older adult communities, age restricted or not. So, and on to the next slide, please. Oh, so anyways, I'm sorry. Wait, before I go on, go back. So phase 2 consists of the qualitative data and collection analysis, as well as the survey, which I'll get into next. And then the last one will be compiling findings and creating the final report. So predicted to finish up around in October. Next slide. The environmental scan report, which was just completed and is pending final approval, that was phase 1. And that was to establish a demographic profile for Aurora and get some preliminary insights into a lot of the gaps in services and support for older adults. This really helped to influence the rest of the study. On to the next slide. So here I'd like to just go over some of these numbers you're seeing here and add a little bit to it. The economic characteristics, as you can see, 35% of older adults in Aurora are in the labor force, which is great because that's more than Denver, which is 32%, and Colorado, 33%. 56% have had earnings in the past year, which is a good thing. However, that is lower than the mean earnings. That in Aurora, the mean earnings are lower, much lower than in Denver. In Colorado, which is 96 and 95 respectively, so about 15% lower. On the housing characteristics, 79% of older adults own their own homes in Aurora, which is a great thing. I think we all know that the building equity, it goes a lot farther than paying these high rents right now. So, however, renters have a higher median gross rent, about 1,500 compared to Denver, which is about a little under 1,200, and Colorado a little over 1,300. And 30% of homeowners and 63% of renters spend 30% or more. I think we're all starting to see people falling into this category. So unfortunately, this gap is only widening more and more with inflation right now. This causes rents to increase year over year. Next slide, please. So this in the next few slides will describe some of the maps that were made in this assessment. This one is very informative. And it describes the walk sheds to light rail or bus stops from particular points. And what makes this one better than others is that it goes beyond a simple half-mile buffer where you would drop a point in a location and go out a half mile from there, and that would be considered the walk shed. But rather this one takes into account the actual distance that one would need to travel through a neighborhood. So taking into consideration curved linear roads in neighborhoods, limited access points in and out of subdivisions, and also the long main street that they would have to walk to get to their bus stop. So much more helpful looking at it in that with that aspect. This was really helpful. First of all, like I say, you can see that half the map is blank. That's because that's East Aurora, which I know you guys know that is being developed. So we do expect the RTD system to expand as development occurs in the east and southeast. Luckily, 62% of older adults are within 10-minute walk, but that is still burdensome for those, especially for those who are mobility challenged. So this map is very helpful in preparing our grant application for a parallel microtransit pilot program, which is a separate project for older adults only. So this just want to point that out. Next slide. So this map here shows the community resources and social services. As you can see, they're mainly concentrated in more established West Aurora. Many of the lands colored in dark green in the east are vacant or nearly vacant. Although new subdivisions are being developed, few houses have been built, so we'll have to let the market determine as population grows the new businesses that are established there. Most of these are public, library, pools, rec centers, and things, and then there's some museums and adult day centers. So on to the next slide. And here you've seen the same pattern continue, that all of these businesses for health and living resources are mostly in West Aurora, and now some are starting to pop up in the green areas in the east as development merits it. Again, I'd like to point out that these maps are helpful in creating the service area we've determined for the microtransit pilot program. And I've referenced that a couple times now, and that's because this assessment has been so helpful in us determining the service area, and it's just been come at an opportune time as these two projects are paralleling, because I've already mentioned to you all that transportation was one of the top needs identified. Next slide. So phase 2, which we're currently in and wrapping up probably next month, is a qualitative data collection and analysis phase, which basically translates into public engagement. Next slide. I mentioned you guys some of the groups we've that our consultants have interacted with, and that's broken down into 3 different areas: key informant interviews, listening sessions, and focus groups. The key informant interviews, we've done 18. We're on contract for 20, so we can still get a couple more, and those are very focused small group studies versus a focus group, which also is selectively chosen participants in a guided discussion, but is not as rigid as and even less rigid, not as rigid as a key informant interview, and more open. The most open one is the listening sessions, which I've been a part of one of them. Those are kind of pop-ups and opportune moments at places like the Aurora Older Adult Center and all the ACAA. I always forget the acronym. But anyways, those are the 3 different methods that our older adults have been engaged in here. Next slide. So onto the the things that most people want to know here are the key themes and information gathered. At the top of it, as I brought up a couple times, housing and income is the number one hot topic issue that we're seeing these days, as well as transportation. You all can read, so I won't bother going through that. I do want to add a couple points under some of these areas. Housing and income, like as I said, it's getting harder and harder for everyone. So managing on a limited fixed income is difficult, particularly for middle income older adults who don't qualify for assistance, but also cannot afford the high cost of living. Kind of like the way I felt with school tuition, never, the lowest income, nor you're the highest, so you bear the middle income problem is something that we're seeing now with a lot of different people in housing. Especially older adults. Transportation, access to affordable and accessible transportation is a significant issue. I just described to you guys the way that it's hard to get to a lot of these stops, these public transit stops. And again, the microtransit is going to be something that will definitely help with that. It will make it accessible and absolutely affordable. And the only requirement for that program will be 60 and up. So that is one thing we're making, that's coincidentally making an effort to combat right now. And down on safety, I'll skip down to safety and information. Fear of crime is prevalent, not in all communities. Some of our recent immigrant communities, especially African, they don't feel as affected by that. But there's also problems with information of services and resources being communicated effectively to older adults. And that's something that we've recognized, and because it's come up several times. So now we are planning a citywide survey on top of the key informant interviews, focus groups, and listening sessions. We're going an extra mile to make sure that we hear from everyone, not just older adults, but any people that are involved with them in their day-to-day lives. On to the next slide. So that's a citywide survey. This is an unplanned for extension of the data gathering phase. This wasn't a requirement from the consultants in the services contract. This is something extra we're doing to make sure that all voices are heard. So with that, communication, something is identified as lacking. So we're going to be sending out targeted mailers that will go to certain areas with the highest densities of older adults. So that is a way we've tried to go an extra mile there. Next slide. And the rest of the time, for the rest of the population, there will be a paper copies available at all rec centers and libraries for people to take on site the survey should they be digitally absent from the world, not participating in online surveys. But then we'll also have online survey running on Engage Aurora page. And lastly, we'll have everything translated into 6 languages for all the paper copies. So really dotting all our I's and checking all our T's, or crossing all our T's, trying to make sure that we make every effort possible to combat this communication problem, as this is something that we can actually handle in-house. So next survey. Next slide. This is the next steps that we have left. Go ahead and move on to the last slide. Right here is the upcoming process. So now that we will have the survey launched by the 22nd of this month latest, it'll go on for a month, and we can extend that a little bit if we need to, since we'll have the targeted mailers going out a little delayed in a few weeks. And so then after that, we'll compile all the survey results. Gaps and needs reports will be produced by our consultants for us. And then based upon that, we'll put together final strategies and recommendations and create the final report, which will be done in October, but which will also coincide with the end of our contract period with the consultants, which, if we need to, we can extend a little bit. That's all I have for you all. Any questions?
Thank you for the presentation. Councilmember Coombs?
No questions from me. I think, obviously some of the solutions to some of the things, like the RTD stops are going to be a little bit more difficult to address.
Mhm.
You know, the areas of the city that have no service, but also some of the difficulties with accessing stops.
Mhm.
I don't know. I guess I do have one question. Have you guys connected at all with the the team that's working on the multimodal transportation study?
Yeah.
Because that's going to be addressing some of those. Safety.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we have connected with them, and Nicole and I, and have been in a couple of the workshops that have gone on with that. And so it's great that all this is coinciding, connecting Aurora, this adults needs assessment, and our microtransit. So that's one of the things that they've identified in the connecting Aurora is the lack of the long distances between a lot of these blocks that we have in the city, especially Central Aurora. That's why you saw in that walk shed that it's not within the 10 minutes, but they're looking at doing midsection crosswalks, and then with that, hopefully will merit RTD possibly moving some of their stops closer to that to coincide. So
Great. Thank you.
If I may add, Councilmember Coombs, I really appreciate the question. Eric and I are very much in coordination with the team within not only Public Works, but also within the Planning and Business Services group. As a matter of fact, Tom Worker Braddock, who's one of our senior transportation planners, he's been working very closely with Eric and I on that RTD grant. So we are very much in tune and trying to collaborate on this effort because these things are very much related. And I can share when we did have Eric give a presentation on our micro transit grant application to RTD, the Southeast Sub-Regional Council last week. And one of the members on the call specifically asked us how much coordination was going on with the Aurora Commission for Older Adults. So I'm feeling really positive that we're connecting a lot of the dots here. And I just wanted to mention those. Thank you.
thanks, Nicole. That's true. I didn't want to rob this and make it so much about this microtransit that we have going on, but it does address transportation. So. Any other questions?
Questions, Councilmember Coombs?
I'm good. Thank you.
All right, Councilmember Murillo?
Yeah, thank you. And thanks for the presentation. The slides and the information around like the housing piece, is not surprising, and also like, a reality that I think, you just feel on the ground. Um, I wonder if you all have connected or plan on connecting with our housing department. Like, we have our housing strategy, and I wonder if this type of information um, might help shape some of the initiatives that we deploy, especially for like the folks who are in the middle feeling the crunch, make a little bit more to like not survive on like, support and services, but not enough to actually really like be okay. Can you talk a little bit about that approach or what next steps are?
Yeah, I might have to pass off to Ryan at this point. He has more of the history with housing and community services.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Eric. Thanks for that question, Councilmember Murillo. So we are working closely with departments across the city. We actually do have sort of a governing team, sort of like a vision team for this particular project that is made up of members from the Aurora Commission for Older Adults, as well as a variety of departments across the city, including some representatives from long-range planning, but also housing and community services, transportation planning, the Office of DEI, and the list goes on. So we are making sure that this particular project does reach a multi-departmental effort and coordination, because I think, as we get to sort of that final report and those strategies and recommendations, we want to make sure that this is really not a PROS specific project, but rather the recommendations that come out of this project are felt citywide.
Okay, so it sounds like you're in communication with them. Um, uh, I don't know, this might be a Councilmember Coombs question, but I'm curious if anything like manifests as a result of this type of feedback in terms of like pivots or changes to the housing strategy. I don't know if that's like just a question that we can put out to at least the team, and maybe it warrants a conversation at a future policy committee meeting. But I love that at a minimum we are being very interdepartmental and interdisciplinary. That makes me really happy to hear. Now I'm just curious what happens next, which I'm sure y'all aren't necessarily in a position to answer, but that's a good start.
We have a couple planners that are sitting in right now in conversations with UDO changes and what the city can do to find a new type of product that would fit for older adults and closer living spaces, perhaps to make it more affordable and that sort of thing. So this is a big conversation being had right now, and it's interesting to see what's gonna come of it. But absolutely.
Councilmember Medina,
Yes.
just to respond to Councilmember Murillo, I can definitely check in with the Housing and Community Services team as well about any updates on these changes at the.
Yeah, or if anybody like here can like direct a question to the team, and then share it with the Horns committee. I don't, just for you to like, for us to follow up on the information, and, I don't want to, assume it's going to go anywhere, from a policy committee standpoint. So, I guess at that point we could kind of make some decisions or have conversations about, that. Either way, I just, want to make it as seamless as possible for staff and for you.
All right, I've got just a quick comment. Yeah, have you reached out to the Colorado demographer around what's happening in the state of Colorado as far as demographics?
We have not to my knowledge. The consultants may have touched base with them at some point in their data gathering phase, but I have not been aware of that. But that's something we can definitely connect with.
Yeah, the reason I ask is I was part of a group that spoke out like back in March, April. Yeah, the statistics are pretty glaring as far as the state overall. That there's, obviously the back end of the baby boomers are going to start to within the next 10 years retiring, which I'm one of those. And, it talked about some of the things you highlighted around the housing and, affordability and transportation and also just how there's going to be many more services needed for that population. And so, because younger people are having children, and if they are, they're usually delaying that till later. And so the demographics is showing that there's going to be a pretty big shift, and that demographic is going to be very large.
You have a
Yes.
question, Nicole? Go ahead.
Yes,
Yeah, I was
if
gonna
I
say,
might,
Nicole.
if I might add, Councilmember Medina, I think that's an excellent question, and I can share with you that staff as well as the consultant team has been in contact with Dr. Cobb, which you're probably aware is the area on aging. And so we have been really trying to facilitate and data share and whatnot. Eric and I've had a couple different meetings with them in regards to older adults in general, but also as it has implications for transportation. So JSI does have a copy of their latest study. The intent with our older adults needs assessment is it dives in even deeper than that high level that Dr. Cogg's study set forth their framework, but I just wanted to bring that to your attention because they work with a lot of the demographics and census data and whatnot as well.
Thank you. Appreciate it. That's all I've got. Thank you again for your presentation.
Thanks for y'all's time.
And next up, we have resolution of the city council expressing the Approval of the intergovernmental agreement between the city of Aurora, Colorado and Arapahoe County for the use and programming athletic fields at Dove Valley.
Thank you, Councilmember Medina. Brooke Bell, Director of Park Recreation and Open Space. I also would like to introduce Jenny Pingino, who you see on the call and on video. She is the new Director of Open Space for Arapahoe County, and she is Shannon Carter's successor. And so she and her team have been working with my team in recreation and recreation services to develop an IGA that would provide, would have the city in partnership with Arapahoe County do scheduling services and use of Dove Valley fields. So I'm going to go ahead and just read through the details of this. I'm seeking approval from the PFQL Policy Committee members to move the subject IGA between the City of Aurora and Arapahoe County for the use and programming services of these athletic fields at the Dove Valley Sports Regional Park to the next available study session. The city's role in the IGA is to provide sports and tournament scheduling services and use of the city's recreation reservation system for the recently renovated sports complex. The city's recreation staff provided similar services for this facility prior to the county's renovation efforts that started a few years ago. City recreation services staff will be responsible for managing phone inquiries and scheduling sports teams using the city's recreation registration system. City will collect all revenues and retain 40% of the gross field revenues, rental revenues, and will remit back the remaining 60% to Arapahoe County. The amount of compensation was determined through work with both the City of Aurora staff and county staff. We reviewed the historical workload, indirect costs, current costs of staff time, and anticipated field revenues, along with the workload to the recreation system. The 40% City of Aurora cost share will more than cover city costs. No additional FTE are required, and the county expects a slow ramp up of the use of the park beginning in August of this year. The Dove Valley rentals will not be in direct competition with the rentals provided at the Aurora Sports Park, primarily due to the quality of turf conditions are different as the field types are different. The field use at the two parks will be complementary. The city benefit is the ability to develop new relationships with local sports teams and the ability to redirect teams to the sports park or redirect city clients to Dove Valley as appropriate. And the county also will benefit from the use of our recreation center, our knowledge, and will gain experience in having a scheduled park. We'll do this for a couple of years and then reevaluate. So my question is, does the policy committee members support moving the IGA to study session? And certainly I have staff on Winter Steger, Derek Tripp that were part of those negotiations, and also Jenny can also provide some comments if you have additional questions.
Thank you, Brooke, for the presentation. Councilmember Coombs.
No questions for me. Thank you.
Murillo.
Same here, but I move approve moving it forward.
Okay. Yeah, no, I think it's a great opportunity, and I certainly approve that as well. So I think you can rest assured we'll move it forward. So thank you.
Thank you all for your support, and I know Jenny appreciates that as well. Jenny?
I do. Thank you all. This is, I'm 4 months into the job as the new open space director for Arapahoe County. I have very big shoes to fill. But I just want to let you all know that I have really enjoyed and am learning a ton through the peer and mentoring of your entire team. I don't have a background in this area, and so I am drinking from the proverbial fire hose. And I just wanted to make sure I recognized their support of our department. And as we come along in this space, we really appreciate the hand holding and Aurora City Council's support. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Jenny, and welcome. All right, seeing no other questions, we voted yes on that. And any miscellaneous matters for consideration? I've got something, I don't know if you're aware of, but I've been working with Adams County on a couple things. They're going after a big NOFO grant that there's, I don't know if you guys are aware of that. There's about $2 billion from the EPA. So I mentioned our xeriscaping that the city does there. So they're interested in that. Maybe as I'm trying to look at maybe a tax incentive. So I don't know if that comes from the state or can be done locally to get more people to do xeriscaping and also provide more resources for people to do that. So I'm not sure who's in charge of that, but if you can connect me with that individual so I can have more conversations. I just had the preliminary meeting yesterday, and most of the committee from there are interested in doing that. There's going to be about 150 recipients receiving between 10 and 20 million dollars. And so I want to make sure that I put us in there and give them the information that we already have something that's already going and how we can maybe make that more robust and offer more resources for that program. And I see somebody's hands up. Is it Councilmember Coombs?
Yeah, so just typically, it's been water managing that program. I know previously, Greg Baker was very involved, but I think it's someone new that they hired on the team that's now, or no, that's the outreach piece that he was handling, and now they have an outreach person. But there is a water conservation
Okay.
department that would be beneficial.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Councilmember
Yes.
Medina, this is Brooke
Yes.
Bell. I do know that we are working with the water department right now on a grant. And actually, I think we've already made the application. I don't know if this is related, but I can follow up with the county.
Yeah, I can connect you to the people that I'm connected to there too. They're going to go after it geographically, obviously through, all of Adams County. But since I already mentioned that with Aurora, because they don't have any other people from Denver Council or stuff, because that was some of the questions they asked is like, how do they integrate with some of those agencies? And since I was already there, I kind of pushed for that since I know that's something that we do. And and I know resources are always limited. So, so I mean, that may be one of the things that we can, partner with Adams County to get some of that funding shifted over to us. So thank you. I'll connect you as well.
Thank you. If you'd send me the email contact to my email, that'd be great.
Okay. All right. Any other matters for consideration? Otherwise, topics for next month's meeting.
Yeah, and I don't have my list, but I do know that one of them is the public safety update, and that will be coming from Brian Green. I have a lot of staff on. If staff can help me out with, I think there's 2 others. If not, I will send them to you in an email right after this meeting. Nicole, thank you.
Yes, we will have one item that will be a resolution to support the school district in applying for a Great Outdoors Colorado grant. So we're working with them to pull all of that information together. And I believe it was Yale Elementary is the focus of their grant. And they are not an eligible direct recipient, so they typically need to work with a sponsor. So essentially, we would be the sponsor. So that process will be coming to you next month. Thank you.
Alrighty.
And
Thank
then
you,
I'll
Nicole, for
send,
that.
I will send you the other items.
Okay. Sounds good. All right, if nothing else, we will adjourn the meeting. Thank you all and have a great weekend.